All right, good morning. My name is George Levesque. I run GoAhead Tours in Canada. So I just want to talk to you a little bit. This is 10 minutes. 10 minutes and we'll be out of here pretty quickly. But just want to tell you about how travel brings people together, because I think in some of the associations that you run, we run tours already. So this is my grandmother and her 8 daughters. I'm from northern New Brunswick, from Edmundston, New Brunswick. Anybody guess which one is my mother from the look of my smiling face? It's this one. I'm not kidding. So I'm the son of a nun. So my mom joined the convent when she was 18. She left when she was 26. Interesting story about that is that she actually wrote a letter to John Paul I asking to leave the convent without being excommunicated. This was in the early 60s, so you can imagine people got thrown out at that time. It took about 9 months, and he wrote her back, and there's a signature. It's still up at our farmhouse up in New Brunswick, and he said, yeah, you can leave without it being excommunicated. Hundreds of nuns left after she left, and it was a deluge. She kept teaching. And a couple of years later, met my dad, had 3 kids, 7 grandkids, and had a terrific life. Now, sadly, we lost her to cancer a few years ago, but my mother was just this most amazing woman. But because she came from a poor family, she would show her love when my parents became a little bit more affluent by buying us stuff. So for her, giving out stuff, being things, were the way she showed her love. So we always had new things and new clothes. Dad got to drive a new car, until she took her first trip overseas with my aunts. They went to London, Paris, and Amsterdam. And when she came back, the new family motto was that experiences are worth more than things. So we just, after that, were pass-me-down stuff. Dad had to drive an old car. It was just like chaos, right? And that really stuck with me, you know, that sense. And I can't think of a better way, and I love working in this business because you get to play in this business. I've been in it 14 years. And I can't think of better ways to create experiences than traveling. And I want to share one I had with you this summer with this gentleman. This is Bob Feltham. He's from Northern Ontario. His father served with the Royal Canadian Regiment in 44-45, Theatre of Operation Belgium and France. He was in intelligence, and he was right at the front. And he came back, married, had kids like many other servicemen did, and about 30 years ago, Bob's father donated his uniform to the Canada-Poland War Museum in Adige, Belgium. It's this beautiful museum in the middle of nowhere, and because they were requesting it through Legion magazines. And when his father died about 10 years ago, they were looking through his stuff, and they found war medals that they didn't know he owned, he had. He never shared that with them. So it took him a few years to try and figure out what they wanted to do with those medals, and finally Bob decided that he would try and figure out how to bring these medals to this museum in the middle of Belgium. Problem is, Bob's never been to Europe, never traveled, only speaks English. So he signed up on our Zoomer D-Day tour last June, and about 3 weeks before departure, he called us and said, hey, I'm going to be in Lille, France on December 8th. How do I get to Adige, Belgium? And quite quickly, we realized that, oh my goodness, this gentleman's trying to get his dad's medals there. So we actually sent somebody to the museum because they were hard to contact. We set up an event, and he got a private tour. We had a big ceremony. I'm getting emotional talking about it because it was just, and he got to pin his dad's uniform, or his dad's medal, on his father's uniform from 30 years before. It was just an incredible, incredible experience. And you live those because we can experience those travel. We also went to a nearby Canadian War Cemetery where we paid tribute to Peter Klassen, who was from Saskatchewan and had never had anybody visit in 75 years, but because somebody knew somebody, we ended up there close by. So that had to be one of the greatest days of my life. It was just a fantastic experience. So we have this quote in our office: the journey is best measured in friends rather than miles, and our group travel area does just that. So this is a group of ladies who have all survived breast cancer in Nova Scotia. They do dragon boat. Thank you. Naomi's in the back. Thank God she saved me. And they did dragon boat, and they've had a club for years, as is in many places across Canada, but they always felt like it was in gelling. Some ladies would come in and out, and then they organized through us a trip to the World Dragon Championships in Italy, and they ended up spending 14 days together celebrating life. Oh, God, I had to pick the 2 topics that get me emotional. My little sister survived breast cancer a couple of years ago, so it touches a little bit home. But we've never seen a group just so happy to be alive and be on tour. And since then, since taking the tour with us and whining and dying in Italy, their group has tripled in Nova Scotia. They've had nobody drop off, and they've fundraised 4 times the amount. And they can relate it directly back to taking a trip. So Judy Chapman, who helped organize the trip, she said really the travel made things accelerated, and we do that to travel. So we already work with some of your associations. We'd like to work with more of them to plan these trips. It helps bring people together. Naomi, who's at the back, wave Naomi Cherry, she's our Irish representative in our office. She organizes these and helps set these together for Ontario, and the more we can do, I think, the better it is for your organization and bringing people together, and the experiences that they build ingrains it. We also have an ability to do a revenue generation structure, but we'd like to get more involved in that. And just tell you quickly, 30-second about us. So we're Canadian-led and operated. We've been operating since 35 years. We're part of the EF Education First family of companies, which is private. It has 52,000 employees in 106 countries, owned by the Halt family, based out of Zurich, Switzerland, although they're Swedes. So we have big offices a little bit everywhere, a couple of hundred people in a Toronto office, and our motto is breaking down barriers of language, culture, and geography. We do lots of different things. GoAhead is part of that family, and we take people traveling all around the world in guided, organized trips. And we're very happy to be a sponsor of FOLA. Okay? Does anybody have any questions? Because I whipped that together in about 7 minutes. Any questions? All right, well, I'm going to draw one of our world-known, famous cookbooks. These are recipes that we've put together of all our travelers, tour directors, and staff. It sells at Indigo, I think, for $42. It's super, super fun and eclectic. And the first person who raises their hand, and I'm going to keep a good eye here, who can tell me the answer of which country in Europe is most visited by Canadians. Italy. Boom. Italy, by far. Congratulations.